Welcome back to Occasional Randomness. I'm your host, Eric Scott, and joining me, as always, my fellow co host, somebody who is very grounded in reality, Jason Johnson.
While that may be true, I'm not sure it's at this point in time of reality.
What is real?
Welcome to the real. And that one Morpheus said. Anyway,
Do you like the red pill or the blue pill? Or the wormhole? Whichever.
I always choose the wormhole.
Yeah, looks more fun. It's like a big slip and slide, something you can slide around.
Yep.
All right, so we are back finally. It's been a wonderful time of crazy work things, endless rounds of passing various sicknesses back and forth to people. But here we are.
Yeah, we're going to put that behind us and move forward.
Yep, the fun of winter. What can we say? So, on today's fine podcast here, we are actually now at the halfway point in the final season of Farscape. And that would be season 4, episode 11, Unrealized Reality. So, we'll be talking about that. And then we will be wrapping up the, at least as of this time anyway, just barely, last Marvel Star Wars series, Skeleton Crew, with episodes 5 through 8.
Yeah, remember that show that ended a while back? Yeah, that one.
Yeah. So, go back and watch 5 episodes, no, 4 episodes. And our little PSA, as always, if you like what we do here, please give us a like or a review or help spread the word. We would appreciate it. So, Farscape, Season 4, Episode 11, Unrealized Reality. We open with John floating in a spacesuit outside of Moya, waiting for a wormhole to appear. Inside Moya, Aaron is sitting on command, continuing to learn English. Tiana comes in and asks her how it's going, and Aaron says, "Oh, they start small, they grow, then they change. I don't know. It's 26 symbols. It should be easy." "Well, they can barely escape their own gravity," Tiana says, and both laugh. She mentions that John has been outside for a long time, and Aaron says he seems to like this particular wormhole for some reason. "Well, then you should learn to speak the language of wormholes," Tiana suggests. "If you want to get him back, that's not the language you need to learn." And then Dargo calls John, telling him that he caught Naranti replacing some drugs in his quarters. And she says they help him forget Aaron. "Well, they just dull the pain," John tells him. Dargo says, or asks if that works. "Yeah, when I double the dose." Dargo asks how much perspective he's lost, since if you take anything away the switch gives you, you have the dose. He tells Dargo, "Don't mind your business." And Naranti says that she can help Dargo remember something, but he pushes her away and she stalks off. Dargo says, "John, you have to let her go." "It's more complicated than that," John says, closing the communication. Continuing to catch up with the crew here. In Pilot's den, Rigel asks Pilot how Moya's doing. Pilot says she's doing much better thanks to that upgrade they got the last couple episodes. Rigel says that the only other thing Pilot needs to do is get over his fear of wormholes, and defying all Crichton logic could actually get them away from the Peacekeepers River. Pilot says John often leaps to conclusions, but Rigel says he's a Dominar. He knows how to recognize things before they happen. Pilot points out that, "Yeah, weren't you deposed in a coup led by your own cousin?" Which shuts Rigel up. Savage burn from Pilot.
Vicious.
We cut to Sokozu visiting Scorpius. Scorpius says that none of them seem to take his warnings very seriously. Why should they? They only have anecdotal evidence of what the Scarans intend, unlike you and I. Sokozu asks if she is to accept his proposal to be allies. What assurances she has that he will watch her back? "Apart from the pleasantness of the task, you instantly become the most important one to me." "Well, most important save Crichton," adds Sokozu. "Always save Crichton," Scorpius whispers. "Agreed," says Sokozu. All right, so they're getting a little too chummy here.
Yep.
Back outside, John counts down the opening of another wormhole, but it looks a bit strange, of course. He tells Pilot that's about time to break out the docking web and yank him back in, but Pilot does not answer. Aaron calls for Pilot too, while Aaron yells at Dargo to get the ship ready, and unfortunately, then John gets sucked through the wormhole, which of course vanishes. John mutters "Kansas in the winter" as he wakes up on what looks like a small iceberg surrounded by water, and not much else. As he calls out to see where he is, the water around him ripples and an old man appears behind him. John comments on his clothes and how they help humanize him, so that John might sympathize with his problems. The man just simply says "time." John doesn't seem to know what to say, so he doesn't say anything. So the man repeats himself. "Time is up," John replies. "Time flies. Time bandits." Time, wounds all heal. Time, rosemary and time. John sings as he fires his pulse pistol, but the man stops the blast in midair. Time, he repeats. Either stop pointing guns at people or get a bigger gun, John comments. Time is? The man asks now. Infinite, John replies. Relative. Ah, you are quite the simple organism to possess the knowledge you do, the man says. He says that time is meaningless, and yet it is all that exists. John goes on to say his name, but the man already knows, and says his own name is unimportant to their encounter, so John names him Einstein. John asks why they're here. You are present to perish. I am present to effect that outcome, he answers, moving towards John. John hurriedly backs away, but ends up falling through the ripples and taking what looks like a very short trip through a wormhole. Suddenly, we're back on Moya, uh, almost day one, pretty much, back in his IASA uniform. He strolls onto command to find Dargo and Zan at the consoles. Oh my god, it is day one, he remarks, as Dargo turns towards him. He introduces himself, but of course, without translator microbes, that doesn't work, and Dargo lifts him up by one hand. He gets injected by the translator microbes, which makes sense of Zan's rumblings. She tells him to answer quickly, as he knows how Luxons can be. Dargo asks what kind of ship is his, so John relays some technical specs. Dargo throws him down as the peacekeepers continue the attack, and Dargo tells Pilot he demands maneuverability now. And if you remember back from the Pilot episode, Pilot can't do that while the control collar is still in place. But, knowing how things went before, John suggests Dargo try ripping out that control panel over there. Sure enough, Dargo does, and Rigel enters. He tells John he'll protect him if he looks after him later. And while John retorts, he knows when Rigel's going to spit and ducks it. John gets up and shoves past Rigel in order to move this along a bit, and he yells, "What's the matter with you people?" he asks, before pointing to his neck and saying, "Tongue!" And as expected, Dargo tongues him, and he falls unconscious. John awakens back on the iceberg without his helmet, and the man Einstein says, "This atmosphere will now sustain you." He says that space and time are fused, and a coordinate of each is required to locate a specific event. Everything happens at a time, in a place, relativity, John says. Einstein says that movement through space at speed becomes movement through time, and wormholes bridge space-time, creating a unique ability to navigate. Yeah, wormholes, been there, done that, John says. Many times, it seems, Einstein comments. And he comments on John being able to position himself in front of them prior to them opening. He asks how John has that knowledge, and John replies that it was just bad luck and a long story. We see flashbacks to the ancient Jack giving John the knowledge in a healing reaction. "Get out of my head," he shouts. "Time," Einstein repeats. "Ancients?" Then we kind of have a weird kind of flashback bit where we see comments from a bunch of people that John knew back on Earth. An ex-girlfriend saying she never met a man who was more in touch with his own feelings. A female teacher saying he was a real hellraiser, you couldn't help but love him. An old sports coach saying he was a man who'd finish a game with a broken leg. Our old buddy DK, remember him? Saying that John rescued him out of nowhere and dropped him in the middle of a dream job. A scientist saying Stephen Hawking is a genius, and John is more towards that end of the spectrum than the rest of them. Reverend saying he'd share whatever he had with others. His girlfriend again saying she can't bear to be without him. DK getting upset and apologizing. And the girlfriend saying that he was so good in bed. So, all glowing reviews about John. Back to the iceberg, Einstein says that wormholes are the one feature that traverse our realms. He says they join but never intersect, and an aggressive perforation of one would allow an unacceptable incursion from John's existence into theirs. The biological part of John's realm are infinitely more aggressive than his. John says, "Yeah, let's table that discussion for now and tell me about the ancients." So Einstein says that they're members of his species who have been substantially modified to live in John's realm, but they're there only to catalog, report, and influence. When they disappeared a little while ago, Einstein's people decided to investigate the knowledge of wormholes in his realm. "So you're the one that hauled Moy's ass down a wormhole," John asks. "Yes, I was surprised to discover a Leviathan. The expedition was a Pathfinder vessel," Einstein replies. And if you remember back from a couple of seasons ago, we met Nyala and their Pathfinder vessel that got fused into Moya, which is what caught Einstein's attention. He says that those he questioned knew nothing about wormholes, but they did mention John repeatedly. "So you set them free to find me," he says. "Your knowledge is quite extraordinary for one of your realm," Einstein says, "and your many travels inside wormholes are troubling." He says that having glimpsed John's mind, he's aware this knowledge has made him a target of more aggressive species, a liability that must be dealt with. "You just stay the hell away from me," John says, running away again. And we get another short trip through a wormhole, and we could pop back on Moya again, but this time Moya is badly damaged. He hears a female voice call out, "Pip," he says, "Aaron, it's Gianna." He asks what's going on here, and she says it's Freld, a great plan he came up with. but it's Chiana, but it's being played by Aaron. John asks about the others, but she says that they're all dead. The Shay Yangs got them. She says that they're next, while John shouts out that this is not funny anymore, but he decides to play along and asks about his module. She says it's in the maintenance bay, but that's a furnace. That's the only tier that's not filled with toxic gas. They fall over with her on top of him. She says they're about to die, and she just wants to do something fun, something that makes her feel good. And she's about to kiss him. He's pulled back to Iceberg World. Well, I gotta hand it to you. You have real great illusion, John says. Einstein tells him what he experienced was very real. Oh, yeah, I guess it did felt real. Real Einstein says, real like the water is not wet? Real like you see with no eyes? John asks. Einstein points to John's hand, and he's holding some of Chiana Aaron's hair from when he grabbed her just before he popped back in here. John looks on in amazement as Einstein says, time, wormholes, the knowledge to unravel events. For that alone, he should kill John. I'll get a bit more flashbacks that are still a little glowing of John. Zan says she's generally the teacher, but with John, I learned as much as I gave. We see Jewel this time, and she says whenever he touched me, there was an almost electric caring. Grace makes an appearance, saying that John Crichton made him a better captain. And Stark pops in, says, I sense a purity of spirit. A better leader, Grace says. A purity of soul, Stark says. A better man, Grace finishes. John's just amazing. He's wonderful. He can't do anything wrong. And I'm just supposed to take your word for it, John asks, adding that the hair could be as fake as this iceberg. The hair represents a possible outcome, an unrealized reality. Ding ding, Ipsota. Flashback to some people. This time, some kind of unflattering comments about John. That his girlfriend says that he's kind of basically a narcissist and wants to look at himself more than her. An unseen woman saying that her dad and John's mom are brother and sister. Ew. Sports teacher saying John blew a key tackle. John's cousin saying that hurt her dad because he loved the family, but they were forbidden to hang out with John after he was about 15. DK says he's dead because John was pig-headed. DK says they weren't ready for space travel. Not really. The girlfriend says he was a cheap, lousy date, a lousy drunk, a redneck. The reverend saying he was blasphemous, not towards God, but towards life. And the girlfriend saying that no, this time he was lousy in the bed. So,
A little bit of everything.
yeah. Well, damn, I always knew Reverend Miller didn't like me, but Caroline, that's a shock, John says. Einstein says that John lingered so long around this wormhole that he was able to locate him, and asked John to describe this fascination with wormholes. John says that something just struck him, and Einstein says it's part of an extensive wormhole system, one of untold number which permeates the space and time of John's realm. John asks Einstein to tell him about unrealized realities. Ding, another name drop episode. Get another short wormhole trip, and this time John wakes up in a cell on Moya, only this time, unlike the first episode, he's not naked. He spots Erin and recites her name, rank, and regiment, which she did 4 seasons ago. He says they have a lot to catch up on, and extends his hand. She grabs him and goes to strike him, but he's ready. She punches, but he blocks. Pretty good, huh? I learned from the best. From you. She asks why he's out of uniform, what's his rank and regiment. After she's thrown him onto the floor and sat on him, he asks how he knows her name. What you really should ask is how I know you've got a birthmark on the sweet spot of your hip, he says. And she snaps his neck. Oops.
Push that one a little far.
Yeah. Went one step too far. John gets pulled back to the iceberg again, and Einstein says every wormhole system has millions of possible exits, each to a distinct time and place. He says travel from A to B, and now attempt to travel back, and you could arrive at point A right after you left, or a cycle later, or a cycle earlier, or 10 cycles, or 10,000. There are millions of possible permutations. The secret is understanding time, John says. Well, not so much understanding as accounting for, Einstein says. He says that unskilled wanderings can create unrealized realities. Ding.
Meow.
So what you showed me wasn't real? John asks. If I had not pulled you back, wherever it was you went would have become your reality from then on. So John says, are you saying that there's millions of me running around with millions of pathetic lives? No, one of you with millions of potential realities, depending on where you and when you emerge from the system. If you do emerge. Going forward's not a problem, is it? Going backward, that screws the pooch, John says. Einstein says that should a traveler appear earlier in the timeline of his own existence, it would be as a pebble cast upon still water. The ripples he creates would, over time, radiate to far distant shores, geometrically altering events in his path. And your ancients gave me just enough knowledge to be dangerous, John comments. Einstein says that, well, without such input, the odds of anyone else actually appearing at a place they previously occupied is so remote as to be mathematically disharmonious. John asks why he's not already dead already, and Einstein says that he trusts the one who trusted John, but he needs to understand why he bestowed this ability on John. John says he's not afraid of this knowledge, and John gets thrown into another unrealized reality. This time, it's way different. He's in a peacekeeper uniform, and Lieutenant Braca approaches him, asking, "Shall we go, sir?" He leads John into a room where they've captured the enemy's Scaran spy, Sikozu. John says to release her, and when questioned, he insists, so Braca lets her go. He tells Braca to watch and learn, and walks up to Sikozu saying, "Be cool, no one's going to get hurt." "But what if there's already hurt?" Sikozu asks. "Someone, sometime, has to end this madness," John says. But she turns and says she'll never tell him what he wants to know. John says he doesn't give a damn, he's just trying to keep her alive. So she strokes his face and says thank you, and then runs around and starts shooting all the guards. She runs up onto a window and massacres everybody, jumping from pain to pain. She kills Braga, looks John in the eyes, saying, "Weak species." As she's about to shoot, John draws his gun and shoots the glass she's standing on, causing her to fall to the floor. John gets pulled back to Iceberg World, and Einstein tells him that that wasn't him. But Einstein says it could be him, would be him, which is why their vigilance is so high. Why the knowledge of wormholes must be suppressed, and why he troubles them. John tells him if he doesn't want him to have the knowledge, just take it out of his head, and kicks at him. Einstein hits the floor, looks up at John, who says he was surprised that worked. He says, "I'm sorry, that wasn't me either." The iceberg is rumbling as John helps him up, and Einstein says his ability to maintain this environment is weakening. John says just take back what they just put in his head, but he says that's impossible and impractical. He asks John what he desires from wormholes. John says, for starters, to go home. Your place of origin is where you can do the most damage, Einstein warns him. We get some more comments, more flashbacks. This time it's all bad. The scientist says he's never faithful to his girlfriends. The girlfriend said he made it perfectly clear that his work was more important than she was. The Reverend calls him a womanizer and talks about his drinking and drugs. John says, okay, yeah, I get the point. The point, yes, but the risk, Einstein says. People you don't recognize, a world changed irrevocably by the toss of a pebble. John tells Einstein to just shove him back down the wormhole, but it's impossible without propulsion. John was the first person to be brought through here without a vehicle. Okay, how am I supposed to get off of this rock, John says. Through the wormhole. Yeah, okay. John asks, with what propulsion? But Einstein says John possesses that knowledge. The iceberg shakes some more, and Einstein says he has very little time left. He says that from the moment the ancients implanted that knowledge, he exists to serve a larger purpose, but gets cut off by Crichton. No, that's what you want. My name is John Crichton, I am not your pawn. Then let us proceed, Einstein says. The iceberg really rumbles, and Einstein falls to the floor. Flashbacks to the people again, this time, yeah, all still bad things. Zan calls him arrogant. Crace says he's impulsive. Zan says he's self-absorbed. Crace calls him insane. Zan calls him ignorant. Stark says the guy was an idiot. Jewel tells him not to go any further. That's John Crichton. That's just what he is. And Stark adds that he's glad that John's finally dead. John asks Einstein why they don't just grab anybody that goes down a wormhole. But Einstein says simply the effort to capture John was massive. They can no more survive in John's realm than he in theirs. That's why the ancients were so important to them. John says, we'll just modify more of your own people then. And Einstein says, yes, they're doing that, but that requires time for the metamorphosis. He asks if John has truly committed to helping prevent aggressive species from acquiring wormhole knowledge. As a career? No, he says. Einstein says that they have very little time, and there's so much more John needs to be exposed to. Einstein says he must soon re-enter his realm, and if John has learned enough to survive, he will be reinserted into the wormhole. He tells John, pay attention, and he explains that in some parts, through the people from John's past, that from every point of entry, a wormhole branches into multiple paths. That subdivision continues until at length you're deposited back into space-time. It can be random or with purpose, but destination is the key. Every portal has a distinct space-time signature. The only destinations you can realize by design are those of which you have foreknowledge. So the more you travel, the more signatures you catalog. The ancients gave him the ability to recognize these subtle differences. Since every destination is surrounded by similar unrealized realities, ding, the closer you travel, the more you must maintain absolute engrossment and never return to a familiar place prior to the last time you left it. So John's next journey may lead to a permanent unrealized reality. Ding. Einstein then tells John, hurry, learn, see, and feel. So back to another unrealized reality. He meets his father, this time played by Wayne Pygram, i.e. Scorpius, and both of them have skull shapes of a human Scaran hybrid. Jack says he was hoping they could have a talk, and John asks what do you want to talk about. You. A talk we should have had years ago. I don't think I'm still a virgin, Dad, John replies. Jack lifts up his arm to reveal some kind of restraining cuff, and John tells him he can't beat this. It's impossible. You remember what we were like centuries before the Scarans conquered us, he continues. Weak genes, disease, death. I think our health and longevity outweigh some personal freedoms. Don't you think so, son? John says, no. and his father says he never changes. He says that John is young, and when he was young, he dreamed of flying in space, but it wasn't to be, and won't be for John either. No, I can't accept that, John says. Back to the now disintegrating iceberg. He asks Einstein not to make him go again and to put him back where he found him. Einstein says that John can do that by himself. John says he doesn't understand any of this. Einstein says he doesn't have to understand. It's not a science, it's an art. He asks how to get back to Moya, and he's told to focus on the space-time signature of when he entered the wormhole. That every wormhole system is like a maze that loops back upon itself. John asks what if he gets back to Moya before he left, and he's told that if he gets back before he left, the pebble that drops will be close to him. He should ignore the ripples and fix the first thing that goes ape, since the elasticity of time allows for unrealized realities to remain so.
Ding.
Ding. If events are matched closely enough to the course, they have a way of restructuring themselves to familiar outcomes. John suddenly remembers Harvey once saying exactly the same thing to him and screams, "Harvey knew!" at the top of his voice. Then Scorpius knew. How? How did he know? But gets flung through the wormhole again. In this unrealized reality, ding, John is back on Moya. This time, Chiana is again played by Aaron and says they think they should run and asks if he wants to. Dargo slash Rigel calls to her asking what she found, and she hands over a few barely charged weapons. Gone, screams Stark, played by Sikozu, and starts rambling about my love, your love, our loves being gone, and says it's suicide. Dargo Rigel asks Stark Sikozu what she's doing, and tells Stark Sikozu to plot his course. Narenti, played by Chiana, but with blue skin, comes in with some food, saying he should eat something before he dies. Dargo Rigel calls Pilot, demanding he give them Starburst now, when Chiana Aaron says that Zan and Aaron are out there under a flag of truce. Rigel, played by Narenti, comes into command and says there are transports loaded with supplies, but the Marauders will shoot them down. They can't escape. Jewel, played by Dargo, is worried that they're trapped. This is all weird. This is crazy. This is
Good.
John has more flashes, remembering the wormhole explanation about how the closer you travel, the more you must remain absolute engrossment. Dargo Rigel again calls Pilot, who appears on a clamshell, much more agitated than the Pilot we're used to. He says right now Moya couldn't starboard more than the length of Dargo Rigel's stubby little arms. Why does anything work? Chiana Aaron asks. Because of all the friendly modifications this wormhole experiment John has. As Pilot continues rambling, John recalls more of what he was told, this time about never returning to a familiar place prior to the last time you left. Jewel Dargo asks why John won't help them, and he says because, like everybody else here, he does not want to be here. Chiana Aaron tells him he has to fix what he's done, but he refuses. Narenti Chiana calls him destructive and offers him something for his betrothed. John says no, she's not on his mind anymore. Jewel Dargo and Dargo Rigel try and get John to fix things, but they're hit by another Peacekeeper shot. The Peacekeepers have boarded, and when Chiana Aaron tries to go off, Dargo Rigel tells her to remain at her post. When she refuses, he tongues her. He asks John to fix the starburst, please, and Jewel Dargo tells him that Chiana Aaron's having a fit. She's dying. The chaos continues, and Stark Sikozu tells John to shoot her, so John does. Just as Stark Sikozu clearly says, Katratzi. As Jewel Dargo runs, she's shot in the back by the Peacekeepers, then Crace, who's leading them, kills Rigel and Narenti. Crace comes over, hugs John, and says, well done, comrade. John remembers being told that his next journey may lead to a permanent, unrealized reality. Ding.
Ding.
But John is yet pulled back by Einstein, who says that he could almost not retrieve him this time, and says next time this will be his reality forever. John says next time just leave him. To die? Asks Einstein. John says it's too risky. Best just leave him here. Einstein asks if he's suddenly becoming afraid, and John says, yes, of the damage I could do. Fear is the correct answer, Einstein says. So John gets suited back up, not sure if he can do it. He starts concentrating, saying Moya, after home. Einstein says, remember, the space-time signature will be familiar, and fear is his providence. He tells him to adjust and maintain focus. Yeah, well, when this is over, John says, you're going to take this crap out of my head. Someday, should you survive, Einstein says. And then says, do you now know what it is? Time, he says, and he travels back through the wormhole. On exiting the wormhole, he opens his eyes and is back floating in space. Yay! He calls for Dargo and then Pilot, but no answer. Instead, he sees what looks like a moon in front of him, and sure enough, when he turns around, he sees Earth floating beneath him. At first, he smiles broadly, happy to see his long-lost home, but the pleasure is short-lived as it quickly dawns on him the predicament he's in. Whoops. To be continued. Alright, some trivia about this episode. The iceberg was inspired by the cover of a New Scientist magazine read by David Kemper while flying from LA to Sydney. Footage from Premiere, the first episode of Farscape, was used with Ben Browder's new lines being reshot for the sequence. The fight between Aaron and Crichton had to be reshot due to Rigel being in a number of the original scenes. Virginia Hayes' scenes were filmed when she was visiting the set back during Don Quixote, her makeup being modified to allow her to use a skull cap rather than shave her head. The costume department surprised Claudia Black by expecting her to fit into one of Gigi Edgley's Gianna costumes. Rayleigh Hill did most of her own stunts, but let her stunt double walk across the glass wall in the alternate reality. During the alternate ship sequence in which the actors were swapping roles, some notable omissions are Tammy McIntosh and Paul Goddard, even though their characters, Jewel and Stark, are there in the scene but played by other actors. And this episode marks the final appearance, other than archival footage, of Virginia Hay as Zan and Lenny Tupu as Crace. And it does mark the final appearance of Tammy McIntosh as Jewel on the series.
Spoiler.
Yeah, so there you go. She's not coming back. All right, so a huge episode, lots going on, lots of timey-wimey stuff. As we referenced a ton of name drop
Ding.
titles all over the place in this thing, or versions of it. You know, lots of cool alternate reality stuff we already saw with some new possible stuff. So, what do you think overall?
Well, first, I think we probably caught on to the fact this episode may have the most title name drops of the same title in one episode. Like, I don't think we've had that many dings before.
Yeah, I don't know how we can get any more. I mean, it's like every scene they threw it out there.
I think Unrealized Reality was supposed to be important, but
Yeah, this
no,
means something. Yeah.
mm, which is funny. They could have called it Time anyway,
Mhm.
or Sense Much Fear in You. I do. I don't know. You could have done some fun stuff with it. No, so overall, I enjoyed this one. I liked a lot of the items in it. I can usually find a nitpick here or there, like the iceberg scenery. I didn't understand the backdrop and whatever, like, other than giving like a weird time limit to the episode to kind of give it some movement. I think that's probably the purpose. But anyway, yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think it moved forward a lot of good points. It kept my attention. The as we'll dive into, I'm sure the scenes and the unrealized realities were progressively more entertaining. Uh,
And more off the wall. Yeah,
yeah, that's what I yeah,
literally.
literally off the wall. The I don't know about the commentaries. That kind of got old. I started kind of tuning them out, but again, the content was great. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I liked it a lot. I always love seeing alternate universes and alternate reality versions of characters that we come to know, especially when they do it like this late in the run where everybody knows each other and they can play off each other and play themselves, playing other people kind of thing. And just they play a lot with stuff that where John already knew what was happening, so it just kind of moves things along. Like, hey, okay, yeah, I know Dargo knocked me out. Come on, or kind of tweak the things a little bit. Like maybe try it again. Because you get your second chance to try something. Like being in a cell with Aaron and not getting beat up by her. Well, until he snaps his neck. But anyway,
Shades of Groundhog Day.
yeah, right. And then of course when we have characters playing other characters, which is always fun, um, which was hilarious and oddly unsettling in some in some scenes. But I know you haven't seen it, but a couple of seasons from now, when Ben and Claudia are in Stargate SG-1, when they do the big 200th episode of SG-1, there's a segment where they're trying to sell sci-fi concepts to a TV producer, and Claudia's character tells the story of Farscape, and we kind of cut to like a flash of that show, but it's the SG-1 actors playing the parts of Farscape characters. So like Ben Stark, Claudius Chiana, um, and so on. I love when they did that. That was just insane callbacks to things.
Yeah, which is another reason I probably need to put Stargate SG-1 on my to watch list at some point. So noted.
Yeah, or you just look at the YouTube clip of just that particular scene, and it's pretty funny. All right, so let's kind of go through some of the good points here, which are mostly that entire episode. But anyway, so we're back to Crichton predicting wormholes. Instead, this time he's not only predicting wormholes, he's also floating out in space in a spacesuit, just kind of watching it appear and disappear, just for funnies. I don't know why you would not just want to do that from the comfort of the command deck, but yeah, let's be outside near a wormhole. Nothing can go wrong with that, right?
Yeah, I try not to think about how long he was exposed out there, just kind of floating. Probably has something to do with doubling that dose of stuff from Moranti. So yeah, who knows?
And I guess before we get into pretty much the whole rest of the episode, They give us a kind of a quick update on the rest of the crew. Aaron's learning English. Like, Chana doesn't think it's worth it. Dargo's, I guess, found out about John and Renty's little drug deal here. I guess just say no, basically, is his big pitch. And the coziness of Sikozu and Scorpius continues. So there's stuff obviously that's happened that we haven't seen, but they kind of jump right into it that I guess now they're allies, and she's number two on Scorpius' most important list. Crichton, of course, being number one. So I guess we'll get to that probably in the next couple of episodes. But the most hilarious thing was with Pilot and Rigel, when Rigel's like, "Yeah, I can recognize things before they happen," and Pilot says, "Yeah, about that time your own cousin overthrew you." Pilot for the win.
Yeah, although I think and I'm like you said, I'm sure we're gonna get into it as we progress towards the next half of the season. But the Scorpio Sikozu thing that's interesting to me. We didn't get a whole lot, because again, like you said, this was kind of like the blip before we got into the meat and potatoes of the wormhole part of the episode. But mixing that with some of the stuff we get from her in the Peacekeeper Unrealized Reality later, there's some weirdness there with Sikozu's background that I either missed or didn't realize that she has with the Scorpius and stuff like that. So there's always been that weirdness between the two of them. So that'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much since whenever they both met, they've been kind of really chummy. So yeah, interesting to see where that goes. All right, and then enough of the crew, or at least the real crew. John gets sucked down the wormhole, winds up on an iceberg, surrounded by water, on like an all black soundstage, and some dude with all black eyes, which is always weird and off-putting. And for some reason, during the course of their opening dialogue, John decides to shoot him for no reason that I could think of, which that seemed kind of out of character. But a little bit later, the guy says he's basically there to try to kill him. Okay, then I could see John trying to shoot him, but it kind of seemed like why did he just yeah, hey, time this, time that, hey, bang, like what, huh? Why are you shooting him for no reason?
Yeah, I'll agree with that. That again, the initial establishment of the iceberg, the initial conversations, uh, and the gunshot part there did feel forced. As they started talking, it got better, but the shooting and the kick that comes later, it seemed like odd, like violent reactions to stuff that was more of a cerebral conversation for John. So I don't know.
Yeah, maybe just showing that John's like out of it too. I don't know, whatever. But who
Yeah,
knows?
that's true. Who knows what he's on there? We didn't know that part.
Hmm. And then pretty much the rest of the episodes, various scenes with John moving through unrealized realities. Ding. Where some things are basically the same as we know, like the beginning visits to Moya, while others are wildly different. And then, yeah, interspersed with the scenes from people on Earth saying various things about him, which I guess if you kind of compare it, like what the where John went and then what people say about him, it kind of matches, right? In the beginning, things are all nice. It's glowing comments about John, and that's what we've already seen before, like the first episode stuff that we already know. Then as the comments get worse about John, the realities he goes to get worse and worse. So I thought it was kind of interesting.
That's a really good point. Because I commented that and it's funny. I think as I watched it, my impression went from I really liked the comments to I kind of got tired of them at the end. But that does make an interesting point that it's almost like the farther we get from the base reality, right? Because the first quote unrealized reality was really the true reality. It was exactly what happened when John first encountered the crew of Moya. So much so that he could predict it, right? But as the comments got worse, the realities got worse, and it got further and further from what we know to be the reality we've been in this whole time. And you end up with him working with the peacekeepers, or either directly or as a spy. So it's kind of interesting to see how far you can get, and the comments get worse. That was a nice touch.
And then other important things that I'm sure will come up to later episodes here is that we get lessons from Einstein on how to navigate wormholes, which now apparently have a whole new element or whole new dimension, so to speak, that we didn't know about before. That not only can you go through space, which is all we've seen so far up to this point, as far as we know, but you can also go through time and to alternate realities. So kind of makes you wonder why nothing like that's happened up until now, 4 seasons in, right? Like when Scorpius was doing all those tests with the Marauder pilots going through wormholes and getting liquefied, and John's other trips through wormholes. So was it just luck? the ancients didn't give them that kind of knowledge up until that point. Just the scripts. They hadn't thought that far ahead. So
I
so
like.
it's so maybe the knowledge that I mean, I guess my way of headcanon it was the knowledge that Jack, the ancient, gave to Crichton probably just limited things to going through space only. And now that he had to unlock that knowledge back when they were twinned, and he got radiation poisoning, all that good stuff. That now he's gone beyond that knowledge. Now he knows more than probably Jack wanted him to know.
I, maybe that's the case. I like to think that maybe we just it did happen and we've left a whole bunch of messed up realities in their wake because they've just kind of been traipsing through not just space but time and didn't realize it, and we've trashed a whole bunch of realities out there.
And somehow just managed to wind up back in yours at the end, right? So,
Right. That's what happens during commercials.
yeah, that's what, when you fade to black, that's what happens, right? Yeah. So yeah, so speaking of ancients, this being tells John that those are members of his own species. They're modified to live in our realm, so that's kind of cool. And that the ancients gave John this wormhole knowledge for some larger purpose, which John refuses to accept, of course, because all he wants to do is go home. He doesn't want any of this crap. but hey, as we said before, this is halfway through the season, so we got halfway to go. So I guess we'll see who's right.
Yep. So what we're saying is he is the chosen one.
Yeah, watch out for the high ground. Yeah.
Exactly.
And then, of course, since John keeps saying he wants to go home, Einstein says, "Well, yeah, that's the place you can do the most damage. Is your place of origin." And of course, at the end of the episode, John uses the wormhole to try and get home, back to Moya, but he winds up in around Earth. Oops! So that won't have a problem next time, will it?
No, it'll all work out. He did say home first, so yeah, he got it right.
So maybe he just reversed it real quick. So yeah, maybe Moya shows up next week. Who knows? I don't know. Otherwise, it'd be end of the season, right? So, but we'll find out. But we do learn some more answers. We get answers to some questions that we had several episodes ago. First, this explains Moya being pulled into a wormhole at the end of season 3. Now we know it was Einstein trying to find out more about Crichton. And I don't remember this, and I would have to maybe go back and try to look it up, but we learned that Harvey, and thus Scorpius, because that's what Harvey was, knew more about navigating wormholes than he let on somehow. So was he planning on using that knowledge for more than just the wormhole weaponry against the Scarens, if they ever went anywhere? So I don't know. I guess we'll see if when John gets back, if he talks to Scorpius about that. I don't know. We'll see if that goes anywhere.
Yeah, and that's an interesting question. Of yeah, he says Scorpius knew, so I guess that means he did. But my first initial thought was that that was something Harvey figured out while sharing brain with John, right? Because he had insights to some of the stuff that just from the matter that he was there, whereas the real Scorpius might not have. But we'll see. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, all kinds of little fun tidbits and plot stuff that can, go on, which that's why I love Farscape. And then actually, I learned as I was doing the show notes for this that this is actually the first of a three-parter. So, I mean, we knew obviously it was at least a two-parter because of how it ended, and the giant to be continued graphic at the end. But
Oh, that's what that meant.
yeah, hey, it's not just we got more season to go. No, it's so can't wait to see what happens next week and the week after that, because as we've said about every single time before, Farscape does the multi-part stories very, very well.
Agreed. And I'll have to admit, I somehow missed that this was a multi-parter. I didn't catch a part one anywhere or anything like that, so I was completely off guard. So, yeah, that was kind of a shocking surprise at the end that they didn't like finish the story out. We're gonna see what happens in Earth next time.
Yeah, because all the other times it's been like something something part one or some way of knowing it's part one of something. So this time, yeah, it was unnumbered. Anything else to talk about? I know we.
No, I think we've established that this was, we liked this one. Makes sense now that we know it's a multi-parter because we usually like those.
Mhm.
So yeah, we'll looking forward to part two.
So speaking of which, the Farscape part of next time will be season 4, episode 12, Kansas. So playing our usual guessing game of what does that mean? Well, I think it's probably pretty simple. He's floating above Earth, so assuming he doesn't die in space, which since we have 11 more episodes to go, that's not going to happen. Plus the miniseries. So maybe he winds up in Kansas. He gets down to Earth. Do we know where he's from? I don't think we were told. I'm not sure. But in any case, he probably winds up back on that Earth that he's looking at. Which I guess the question would be: is this his Earth or another reality's Earth?
Or even better, when.
Good point. Yeah, 'cause
Uh,
space and time. They threw the time thing in several times, and they showed us time jumps. All basically every single time he jumped this episode. So yeah,
yeah,
could
we're
be
traveling in four
typical.
dimensions now.
Yeah, that's right.
Uh,
They've
or
gone they've gone plaid. Yeah.
they've gone to plaid. Or, we did get a reference to Kansas in this episode, actually, because he comments about Kansas in the winter. So now with this title, maybe we're not in Kansas anymore?
Could be.
I don't know. There's my Wizard of Oz drop for the day.
And then, yeah, how's he gonna get down to Earth? Because he's up in space by himself, at least as far as we know, right? Where's Moy and company? How's he gonna get back from Earth back to wherever Moy is at? So all kinds of questions. Which it's a three-parter, so obviously it probably won't be next episode. So,
And then the best question of all is if he does get to Earth, will we see Gary Regal?
yeah, right. And Zan in the power suit. Yeah, right. Yeah, it's kind of good luck if it's really Earth pulling off Luxon and a Hynerian and basically everyone on the ship's an alien, so no one except for Aaron looks like a human. So yeah, good luck with that one. So yeah, we'll see if we get that fun aliens but not aliens kind of thing.
Hey, after the realities of this episode where we had characters cross playing each other act things, you never know what you're gonna get on Earth. Could all be played by Muppets or something. So
Yeah, they could all be those half scare and half humans. Who knows, right? We ain't seen anybody yet, so we don't know.
uh, mm, they could all be monkeys.
Yeah, so we'll find out. So that is your homework for the Farscape part of next time. So coming up here in a second or two will be the recap and discussion of the final half of Skeleton Crew Season 1. All right, you want to start the recapping off since I did the gigantic half hour half hour recap of
Yeah, I think I
Farscape?
almost owe you all of these. But anyway, yeah, I'll jump into these. So we pick back up on the Skeleton Crew with season one, hopefully, episode 5 through 8, and we'll start with episode 5. You have a lot to learn about pirates. So on at Atten, the parents desperately try to send a message beyond the barrier, but this attempt is foiled by a supervisor's droid. After ordering the droid to delete what it learned from its memory, Farah admits to Wendell that they have to go behind the supervisor's back. The crew manage to restrain SM-33 and alter his programming to prevent him from turning on them. He reveals that the hidden treasure belonged to the famed pirate Tak Rened, meaning that the ship they are on is the Onyx Cinder. SM-33 agrees to take them to Rened's former base deep within the famed luxury planet of Lanupa. Jod and the children enter the planet in disguise. Unbeknownst to them, Pocket, Jod's former partner, outs his location to Brutus. With help from the patron Cthulhups, little name there, Cthulhups, the crew make their way deep into Lanupa's hidden caves, maneuvering through booby traps until they find the hidden base. They find the coordinates to Adatin and learn that the treasure is an old Republic mint. Overcome with greed, Jod
Cha-ching.
challenge Cha-ching. Overcome with greed, Cha-ching, Jod challenges Fern for the captaincy, and with a cutlass to her throat, urges her to yield. Wim wields a lightsaber in hand he found in the treasure pile and threatens Jod, but he drops the weapon when he proves unable to wield it, or actually just wields it upside down. Fern eventually yields, but the children escape when Win activates a booby trap, dropping them out of sight. Jod finds the lightsaber and activates it for himself.
Which leads into episode 6, Zero Friends Again. And Jod and SM-33 are captured by the pirates and Pocket. Oops. The pirates take Jod and SM-33 back to Brutus for execution. Meanwhile, the children drop out of Rened's lair into the bottom of the resort. KB reveals that she has memorized Aden's coordinates. After a subsequent argument over how to reach the Onyx Cinder results in Fern and Neil trying to climb the mountain while Wim and KB follow a group of seemingly benevolent trash crabs.
Say that 3 times fast.
Yeah, Jod saves himself and SM-33 by bribing Brutus with the location of Aten. Midway on their little journey, KB's cybernetics suffer a malfunction from environmental corrosion that forces Wim to fix them. Meanwhile, Fern and Neil recover the Onyx Cinder and save their friends before they are devoured by the carnivorous trash crabs. Curse you, Converse treasure. Soon the ship is pinned by a garbage machine, forcing the children to press the red button they shouldn't have pressed in the beginning to purge the hull, which reveals a sleeker ship beneath as they depart Lanupa.
Leading us into episode 7, we're going to be in so much trouble. Back on At-Aten, the parents send a transmitter into outer space, but are discovered by the security droids. Then the parents arrive at At-Aten at the same time as the Onyx Cinder, resulting in the latter's capture. The pirate Glurb is sent into the barrier, but his ship is destroyed by its defenses. Realizing that the Onyx Cinder is the key to bypassing the planet's defensive barrier, Jod kills Brutus when the children incapacitate him with the claw, uh, and resumes his former captaincy and tells the pirates to conceal themselves until he obtains the location of the planet's vaults. The children manage to use the pirate code to get SM-33 to turn on Jod so that they can escape, but Jod stows aboard the Onyx Cinder and decapitates SM-33 and then threatens the children into silence. To their surprise, the barrier recognizes the Onyx Cinder as an At-Aten ship. As the security droids question the parents, the supervisor is heard announcing the arrival of a Republic emissary. Jod poses as the Republic emissary to gain access to At-Aten's vaults. The children are briefly reunited with their parents before Jod approaches them with his lightsaber drawn.
And then we have the conclusion of season 1, and maybe that's it. We don't know. But anyway, episode 8, The Real Good Guys. So Jaw continues to pose as the Republic emissary. He orders Wim, Neil, and KB to be confined to their quarters, well, homes, while he takes Fern and Farah to meet the supervisor, who we finally get to see is really a just massive droid. When the supervisor contradicts Jod's claim of being a Jedi, revealing to have learned all about Order 66, Jod is forced to destroy the supervisor. This causes a blackout in the city and shuts down the safety droids. As the pirates invade At-Aten with the intent of enslaving the populace, Wim, Wendell, Neil, and KB race to the Onyx Cinder. With the ship locked in place, Wim and Wendell devise a plan to distract Jod so Wendell can restore power. This enables KB and a newly repaired SM-33 to launch and fly the ship past the barrier and call Kim for help. Shortly after, the Onyx Cinder is shot down by the pirates. Meanwhile, back on At-Aten, Wim, Wendell, Fern, and Farah all fight with Jod. While Wim and Fern separate Jod from his lightsaber, Wendell and a reluctant Farah destroy the barrier. This allows the New Republic forces to arrive and deal with the pirates, shooting down their ship and forcing Jod to admit defeat. Everybody runs to the Onyx Cinder crash site to find KB alive and well. William looks up to the sky in amazement at the New Republic ships arriving on At-Aten as power is restored. The end? Question mark. So that's season 1 of Skeleton Crew. Overall, what'd you think? Did you love it? I know we loved the first half. Did it go through the last half? Think there'd be a season 2? I don't know what they would do since this kind of wrapped up, but and it did kind of end suddenly. But hey, who knows?
Yeah, so I have to admit, it did stay with the enjoyment did stay. I loved it all the way through. I probably have seen this more than I've seen any of the rest of the Star Wars stuff. My kids have rewatched this one pretty repeatedly since it ended, so there was a span where we just kept rewatching it. But yeah, I did really love it. I know as far as the shows go, this is probably my favorite since maybe the beginning of first season of Mandalorian. I mean, I've enjoyed all the Mandalorian one, but this is probably right there with that for me. Goonies in space is hard to beat. It's for the question about season 2. I know that as I kind of dug around the internet a little bit, there have been comments about them wanting to do season 2 and kind of having some plans. I think there's supposed to be like a pretty good time jump because the kids are obviously aging as we speak, so they have to kind of take that into consideration by the time we get it filmed and released. But yeah, I liked it. How about you?
Yeah, I like it. I thought they brought it home. To your point, like, yeah, no Star Wars series has disappointed me. Again, maybe except like half of Book of Boba Fett, which we won't talk about. But yeah, I mean,
It's like Fight Club.
yeah, right. No one talks about that. But yeah, I mean, it's just your fun young adult adventure story. If you think about it like that, like if you know that's what it is, then I didn't spend a lot of time thinking, well, that's not going to happen. Those are just kids. Why letting kids do all that stuff? I just watched it for what it was, entertainment. So thumbs up, like the story. But yeah, it just like I said, it just kind of ended, which I mean, Yeah, I mean, I guess what else were they going to show us, right? So I mean, this kind of like, yeah, the Empire saves the day, everybody's happy. So okay, I mean, the Republic saves the day. So okay, you know, end scene. You know,
Yeah, I agree with that. This in the vein of most good '80s kids shows. I referenced Goonies already, but you could pick any of your great '80s adventure comedy things. This fits right in there with it, and you just can't think too hard about it. You just have to kind of enjoy the ride and sit back and don't spoil it for yourself.
yeah, and I like that. With this last half of the episode of the series, they brought their parents into it more. Because basically learned that while they've been gone off on their little adventures here, their parents haven't given up on trying to find them, trying to help them get back to Atten, and I guess you can kind of say like their kids are kind of rubbing off on them because they're even breaking all the rules that they've been espousing to their kids to try to get them back. So they're kind of acting more like their kids. So it's kind of funny.
Which comes full circle by the time we get to the last episode, right? Because we've got the kids and the parents working together, so it really works itself out and stays consistent to the story.
Yep. And, everybody's happy to see each other again and happy to help each other and be one big happy family. And then yeah, like looking back at some of the episodes, like the whole spa planet thing was just silly and but fun. Like again, just go with it because of the style of the show. Don't think about how the employees don't know that they're kids. Don't care. Just go with it. It's funny. They look like little not adults, but they like look like kids with like beards and floppy hats. But it's like no, just go with it. Like yeah, they're this race of people that look like that. Okay, fine, go with it. Like no one cares. Just go with it. It's funny. And the fact that this fierce pirate's lair is now a luxury resort planet. That's hilarious. Especially SM33's reaction is like what is this? Like what?
Well, and he's at the beginning of this episode. He's flying them to the planet. He's talking about how it's Skull Mountain and all these different names they have for it. And he eventually goes Lanupa, and they're wait, Lanupa, and that's about the time you realize they're flying to like the ultimate like upscale resort, like the treasures hidden under like I don't know. I can't even name a good spa because I don't go to spas, but you got the point.
Mhm.
And yeah, talk about the kids, that whole even their entrance onto the planet, right? When they land and Jod's trying to introduce the ancients or whatever he called them, they come down on the claw, right? They ride the claw down like just like kids. So I think the adults do the whole time and just went with it on the planet because they kept getting credits out of them. So
Yeah, because Jod basically bribes the spa manager with all their Old Republic credits to act like, yeah, I'm supposed to be here, right? Yeah, that's me on that list there, right? Yeah. It's like here's some money. And it's like, okay, sir, yes, you're right. So
and I think I also looked it up. Whatever the alien guy that he's supposed to be, that Jod claims the name of, is like a completely almost non-humanoid looking alien. So it's like he by the time they're like, that's why the guard was like, drop the name. He's like, you're Professor Woo, because it's like he doesn't even look. He's not the right species at all.
yeah, but money cures all problems. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then yeah, so we do finally get down to the said dread pirate lair there, and of course it's full of treasure. Jod's eyes are bulging out of his head, and we also got that recording by that pirate leader saying that Atten is an old Republic mint. So there's the secret we've been waiting for 5 episodes. That's why it's so important. He didn't bury any treasure on that Atten that everybody thinks, but it's the next. Actually, it's the best possible thing a pirate can dream of. A way to make endless money. so so, of course, as Jod's overcome with massive greed here, he does his sudden and inevitable betrayal
Curse it.
yeah, of the kids. Gets the captaincy back from Fern. Of course, in the treasure trove, there's a lightsaber that Wim finds, and like you said, yeah, the way he was holding it, I knew it was upside down, and when he turned it on, it went right down to the floor, and he got jarred, shocked, and he dropped it. It was hilarious because he's not gonna suddenly like charge him with a lightsaber, but so something funny had to happen.
Yeah, it was totally a kid thing to do, and was perfect for the tone. Uh, I will admit though, this episode did have some of the more interesting, like lighthearted and dark things at the same time
Yes.
because they have like to get into the treasure room, they had to throw the coin into this acid pool, right? Which then somehow magically the acid drains and the ground's fine to walk on. But as soon as SM33 plugs in and gets access to the system, the first thing Jod has him do is refill the acid pool and kill most of the pirates. So there's that.
But it's all the off-camera violence that makes it more funny than and kid appropriate, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, but you hear him scream. I mean, it
Oh
was
yeah,
pretty good.
yeah, like what? Ah, yeah. Yeah. And then yeah, so then obviously the next episode, the kids have to get back to their ship and escape. Uh, Lanupa, whatever. Of course, the endless series of captures. Jod and S1E5-8 get captured by the pirates, but they give them the secret of Aladdin to save their lives instead of getting spaced. We get a little kid drama of two want to go one way, two want to go the other way, so they go their own separate ways. But I did like it because we actually find out what KB cybernetics are for, which is basically to keep her mobile. So whatever happened to her accident, or I forget what she said, that basically that keeps her like functional, basically. And Wim's got to help her fix it with some clever little mechanical engineering, so it's kind of fun. And then hey, they get to follow some cute little trash crabs that they call them. There's little cute little helper crabs that want to help them, get back to where they come from. Nothing sinister there.
Yeah, they're like little seagulls. Mine. But anyway, yeah, this is one of the reasons that this show sits so highly for me, right? I mean, I like a lot of the different things, but they don't in all the comedy and all the little cool hijinks. They actually do take the beat for the character development with the kids. I guess we kind of know this is like what anti penultimate or whatever. We're starting to get ready to head back to AT-AT and have our big finale set up, but they take a moment here to not give you your typical pairing. They split the kids up in a different way, and then let each of them kind of learn something. So all four characters kind of get a little bit of development here, which is kind of nice before we move forward.
Yeah, I mean they're all kind of growing. Like Wim's getting more of a backbone because he's been kind of like the shy, not sure of himself kind of thing, and he's branching a lightsaber. He's fixing people. He's doing stuff. So he's getting better.
Yeah. Well, and same for Neo, right? He figured out he could climb the wall, and Fernley, yeah, they all learned their little high things, specific character things they needed to be able to go home better than they left, right?
Yeah, and then Fern and KB make up. Oh,
Yep.
So
Hero's journey across the board.
yeah. So I guess learning about all kinds of secrets here when they're almost going to get chopped up by that garbage recycler, giant trash crab thing, whatever. That button that we found out in the first episode or second episode that they were told never to press ever in the cockpit of the Onyx Cinder, the emergency hull detonation button, which you're like, that sounds kind of drastic. What? That makes no sense of a button like that. Because you think that sounds like it's going to destroy the ship, right? But no, it just kind of blows off like this, like the old nasty ablative hull that was around the real ship. And we see that the real ship is like your good old fashioned old Republic chromed out ship, hidden under all that worn out nasty hull. So, and they escape to get home. So it's kind of cool.
And this is the part of the series that makes me the saddest because I have downstairs waiting for me to unbox it the Onyx Cinder Lego set. And I really wish that there was a secret set of instructions or something so that you could make also the new model of the ship that you see because it's the original, not the nice, sleek version. And I just think that would have been like a really cool, like, secret Lego instruction to be like, oh, yeah, by the way, you can make the new model too.
Yeah, because I haven't looked at some of the Lego stuff from the old or the whatever you call it, second trilogy, whatever you want to call it. Did they have like the chromed out ships for that
Uh, there's
set?
several Nubian fighters, but they're mostly yellow. I can't think of anything that's like chromed out. So
So not like the one that they're flying to go to Naboo, right? Not that one.
I don't remember that one.
Yeah, I don't think that. Of course, it wouldn't be chrome, right? Because Lego that probably cost too much. But
It'd be gray.
yeah, yeah, just gray. That's chrome. Good enough. Yeah. Let's see. Then pirates and the kids arrive at Aten almost simultaneously. Of course, the kids get captured again because that's what happens. Keeps it entertaining. And we learn that the only way to get through the barrier is to use the Onyx Cinder because the defense grid recognizes that as a Republic ship, so it's allowed through. As you mentioned, yeah, Jod gets his revenge on Brutus after the kids, do the right thing, which because again, the kids aren't killing anybody, they just capture them, and it's the adults that kill people. So yeah, there we go. Jod kills Brutus.
Curse him.
Yeah, the kids of course escape, but Jod
No, that
sneaks.
was Ed 2. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, right.
Wrong reference.
Yeah,
Ed 2.
yeah, it's all falling into place now. These names. Anyway, so yeah, the kids escape. Of course, Jod sneaks aboard the ship, and of course, the droids think he's the Republic emissary because he's on the Republic ship coming back to check on them. So, of course, why not? Makes total sense. He gets him to go right to the mint vault and sees endless piles of shiny credits, and his eyeballs just blow out of his head. so, so now he's just got to deal with those meddling kids and their parents.
Which does give us a really good scene of him like touching the credit or picking up a credit or something, and the whole stack just like dominoes and off into the floor. And I can just imagine those droids being like, "Well, there goes our next year of just picking up these credits and restacking them." So,
Yeah, that clumsy emissary. What are you doing? Yeah. And then we get our big finale episode where they wrap up everything. And we do finally learn that Jod was barely trained in some Force abilities by a Jedi on the run during Revenge of the Sith, or after the Order 66 declaration. So I like it. That fits. It's a good explanation and it's plausible. So I liked it. I mean, I'm sure he saw her killed and then he escaped, or they didn't think he was worth killing. So that kind of, explains his moral outlook and what's shaped him into who he's become. So I thought that was kind of cool. What do you think?
yeah, so I liked it. I mean, it's not a negative. I was just trying to think if this was a series that had more episodes, like if it was a 12 episode series or something, I think we would have got like a full episode flashback of Jod getting, meeting up with this Jedi on the run and getting trained, like a full montage, like setup of all this. And part of me wants that, and part of me's like, nope, we needed to stay focused on the kids and not get distracted. So probably a good thing. I'm just trying to, it'd be interesting to see if they ever go back and fill that gap in.
Yeah, I think I saw that or read that they did have like a scene to kind of explain that, or at least show who that Jedi was, which no one we knew, but just they showed who she was. So I guess they cut it out for reasons, but
Yeah,
I guess it wasn't important to show it. Just to be explained it good enough.
yeah. Again, economy here. We had too much stuff going on to focus on that.
Yeah, it was a jam-packed in the last episode. So. And speaking of secrets, on Atten, we learn more secrets, apart from the fact that it's a giant mint. The mysterious supervisor that they always talk about is just a droid, although a really, really, really large, basically the entire spine, this spire thing was at the droid, basically, a large immobile droid.
So you're saying he was meant to be there?
Yeah, 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 there you go. Which,
You got to give me some credits for that. Anyway.
yeah, trying to think of a joke. Anyway, that's fine. All right. But it does kind of explain their well-run, shall we say, systematic, rigid society. And the aptitude test and everything else that they're doing. So that's kind of what society you would get if a droid ran the whole thing. So, okay, makes sense. I like the fact that Jod bluffs that, oh, I'm a Jedi too. And the supervisor says, yeah, but the Order 66 thing, we're supposed to kill you all. He's like, oops. So bye bye, supervisor.
Yeah, so should have had some backup or some redundancy, right? Poor supervisor. Uh, yeah, it's an interesting point about the planet being run by them, right? Because I mean, how long? I don't think if we get a definition of how long it's been, but it's been a crazy amount of time that they've been cut off from the rest of civilization. So it's kind of interesting. Other than somehow the supervisor knowing about Order 66, we get the impression that it's been a long time since they had interaction with anybody outside of the Republic.
Yeah, I was trying to think. I'm sure they tell you maybe when they said it, but I didn't go look. But yeah, I mean, figure how Order 66 and how old Jod is. It's got to be, I mean, maybe 30, 40 years ish. So, enough for at least a generation or two of people being on the planet totally run only by the droids.
Yeah, I think they play with this a little bit like they play with how long they try to make it feel like between, even though it's only a generation between the fall of the Republic and A New Hope, but they kind of like the Jedi have been forgotten and all that kind of stuff. They make it feel like it's really a lot longer. You get the same feeling here where it's almost like on one hand it's that's the case, but it's also been like several generations, right? Because you've got the parents who've grown up with this same under the control of the supervisor approach. So I don't know. I almost feel like maybe they got cut off earlier in the Republic than just right there at the end. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, if it's a mint planet, and I don't know if all the other, maybe it was just Aten was the mint planet and not the rest of them, because otherwise they would have found mints on those planets. And no one seemed to care. So
Right.
yeah, so maybe yeah, this was because it was the mint. It was more walled off earlier, to keep the money, secure. I don't know. And speaking of which, of course, the pirates land and start blasting things because that's what they do. And they take prisoners to work the mint, which, okay, now my brain started taking me out of the just go with it, you know, thing. So I'm like, Okay, so what's the pirates' goal now? Are they just going to be guards and force people to make credits? Okay, sure. But again, me now going outside of just go with it. Now I'm like, I don't think they thought that far through with this. Like, are they gonna what take turns leading Adden to go spend their credits? Because you can't spend them on Adden because why bother? But again, don't think about it. It's a fun adventure. Just go with it.
I think that the goal here was exactly that, right? Like if Jod takes over the planet and all the citizens of Adat are his, you know, slaves slash whatever, and he controls the money, he's got the only ships that can leave and come back because the barrier still exists. Then they can funnel anything out they want out, go buy whatever they want, and just sneak back into Adat as a protected base that nobody can get into. So it could work. It's just kind of isolationist.
Yeah, because I mean, you start going around to other planets and other places, throwing around old Republic credits that are, obviously raising all kinds of alarms and eyebrows, and then I'm sure they would follow you back, and yeah, they can't get in, but they're just going to hang out there. And then when you come out, they're going to attack you. So I don't know. Again, don't think about it. Just go. So, it's still funny. So yeah, it still works. And of course, the big ending. Everybody works together. The kids and the parents devise, different plans to get the power restored, so they get past the barrier to call for help. Doesn't quite go as planned because drama. So, the Onyx Cinder with KB and SM33 get shot down, but they do manage to get the message off to the New Republic. Yay. The kids distract Jod, and then Fern's mother destroys the barrier. And apparently, the New Republic arrives right then because they were right there. Which, okay, again, who cares? And saves the day. Jod gets captured. Everybody's alive, of course, from the ship because it's a kids show. Kids can't die except pirates. Because it's pirates. They're evil. They can die. And the show just kind of ends. Wim looks up into space, sees the ships, X-wings and stuff flying through, and it's like end. So, what do you think of the ending? Think there'd be a season two? Maybe, like we said, if they time jump it, I don't know.
Yeah, I think I do think there'll be a season two. I hope so. I mean, maybe not just for this story though. I mean, like you said, they did kind of cap it off. You could, I think they really stuck that ending. They could have given us some more, like spend a lot of time on epilogue stuff. But you know, again, if I look at it from a good classic '80s movie, it ended very similar, right? There, everybody kind of just quick montage, hug at the end, and then we can roll credits. And besides, the school got blown up, so no makeup exams, which seems very in line with most high school kids movies from the 80s. So again, has all that 80s vibe going. I also, just for your watch, if you haven't seen it yet, I threw the Bunky Dunko video in, which was kind of made off of the song that was played in the trailer. So that's worth watching. Again, sticking with my 80s theme of, some kind of weird 80s music video to go with the show. So there you go.
Okay, yeah, I'll have to watch it. Yeah, I didn't see that yet.
Okay. Yeah. It's pretty entertaining.
Yeah, it's kind of like the pre-pubescent kind of like Breakfast Club, right? They get out of detention and off they go. So school's done. They don't
Yeah.
and
Oh,
actually now the entire point of the school doesn't matter. The supervisor droid is blown up. The barrier is open. They're now exposed to the rest of the universe now. So hey, the sky's the limit now, right?
yeah, you can grow up to actually be whatever you want. You can be a Jedi. You don't have to be an analyst or whatever. So yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Sky's the
Now
limit.
now Wim can live out his dream of his little books he reads. Yeah. So.
Which we get the awesome end credits of the story being told in that little
I thought it was
thing
kind of
of his.
funny.
So that was
Yeah.
that was kind of funny too.
Yeah, and plus, I mean, I do hope they do another one of these because, yeah, I mean, they need to get like a new generation of Star Wars fans, and the young adult stuff brings in like you said, your kids are watching this like every other day basically. So it's like you want to get that new fan base growing, and
Yeah, I mean, as much as I like some of the other shows, your Obi Wan's and your stuff. This holds the kids' attention better, so it kind of sticks with that, like you say, raising up new fans thing.
yeah, and it's more relatable. Like Andor is not a kids show. That's like espionage, behind the scenes politic kind of stuff. That's not too fun for the young kids, right? So you want the action, the no one gets hurt. It's you don't really see the bad guys get killed that much, where it's a typical, fake, no, blaster kind of stuff, not, graphic stuff. So it's, you want to keep that kind of fun, whimsical side of Star Wars.
Which
You have the hard stuff, or you can have the deep, deep philosophical or deep, espionage, spy craft kind of stuff.
which is good, and I enjoy that too. But you're right, for the kids, this is an important thing to bring in the next generation, and it's kind of tough with ones like Andor because you know where he ends up, right? So
Yeah,
it can't go too light.
yeah. Then we'll see with, obviously with the Mandalorian, which is kind of the fun, kind of for everybody kind of show, and so. But yeah, like we said, Star Wars is just a framework. It can tell any kind of story, any kind of genre they want. So
Which I guess, speaking of Andor, that's next, right? That's the next one we've got on the list for Star Wars.
yeah, I think it's coming out next couple months. I think. I don't know. Oh, the more exciting thing I'm waiting for is next month. Daredevil comes out, Born Again. So
Mm. Coming first full circle for us,
yeah, that's where we first met. On, well, not Daredevil, but Punisher, but you know,
so,
same idea. So
which was basically from Daredevil. So there you
yeah,
go.
yeah. For some reason, I started watching Daredevil season two when I was, one of the few days I was homesick, like we talked about at the beginning of the show. I just decided to watch that again because I knew this was coming up again next month. So I wanted to just catch up on the Punisher parts of Daredevil season two because Punisher is part of Born Again. So just wanted to refresh my memory of how it all worked. But yeah, lots of good stuff coming up this early spring into summer and probably fall, I guess. I think this, yeah, several major Marvel and Star Wars stuff coming out this year. So can't wait.
Nope.
All right, anything else to sum up about Skeleton Crew other than we loved it? We hope there's another season
Yep.
and keep doing all the good work.
Absolutely. Hopefully they'll do it again.
All right, so next time, yeah, probably well, for sure Farscape. Depending on when we record it, maybe the first couple of Daredevils might be out. I think we'll see, but for sure your homework will be Farscape, and we'll go from there. All right, and with that, we will see you next time. Goodbye.
Goodbye.